Guys, I heard I think two speakers out of you speaking something, but it's okay. What Vishaka said is all right. But then the point is, you must have the correct information, unbiased information from all sides, and then make your own views about it. That's important. Otherwise, following some political party, religious sect, or some sectarian ideology, it's all nonsense. They're making a lot of you. Please avoid getting into those traps wherever you find them. Okay, now we are here today to talk about, in brief, about what's happening in Armenia and Azerbaijan. First of all, I will tell you what exactly is the history, how these countries were formed, and what exactly happened. That is the root cause of this trouble. Then I will tell you about the geography of this place, what is the importance of this place and the geopolitical affairs. And then I'll tell you what exactly diplomacy is going on at the moment and what are the world views, whether it is religious or it is, economic or it is something else. So basically, these are my three thrust areas which I'll be discussing, and you all can listen to these and start looking for the answers. Okay, you see this map in front of you. Now this is Russia in front of you. Pakistan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, and these Azerbaijan, Armenia, Georgia, Ukraine, Belarus. This was all USSR, Union of Soviet Socialist Republic. This was formed in the year 1970. And until 1970, this entire area, which has started, even other areas, which on this map I've shown you, Belarus, Ukraine, Armenia, Georgia, Armenia, then Uzbekistan, and all these areas, they were all ruled by a king called Tsar, Czar. So Tsars were the rulers of this entire kingdom. So in 1970, the communists took over. The Stalin and Lenin that you heard of, those two great leaders, they were the communists basically. So they took over the entire thing. They overthrew the king, and all these republics, they were made into some kind of a union. That is Union of Soviet Socialist Republic. That is why it was called USSR. And it carried on like that till 1991, when the then president of USSR, Brezhnev, he started a theory of something called glass yourself up to the world. We are off to what? Rahul Kural. What is his message? Okay. So he started opening up. There was a perestroika and there was a glasnost. These are the two terms which are used because of which the entire Soviet Union got disintegrated. So all these got disintegrated and they became different republics. They became nations of their own. And at the same time, this was the area which is Azerbaijan and this is Armenia. What happened over here was there is an enclave within Azerbaijan here somewhere, which is connected with Armenia with a enclave. Now this is called Nagorno-Karabakh. Now the problem over here was the people who are staying in this Nagorno-Karabakh, they were of the origin of Armenian origin. Their race or their clan or they were Armenian origin, but they were within the boundaries of Azerbaijan. And Azerbaijan is mostly Muslim, and Armenians are mostly the Christians, which the rest of the Russia also is. And there are Muslim countries also in Russia. All this Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, all these are Muslim countries. So this is what actually remained at that time. So once these small countries came into being, there was a problem at that time also. Azerbaijan said that this particular area is an R enclave, so it is part of Azerbaijan. But Armenians said no, it is inhabited, ruled by people of our race, so it is part of Armenia. So this problem carried on. I mean, there were a lot of disputes, wars, etc. that happened. Now, this is how the problem came into being. Now, before I go further, now see, this is China and this is India. Now, this where Pakistan is written. This is actually Pakistan occupied Kashmir. And from right here, Afghanistan and then the Russia started. So in 1947, when British were leaving the country, They thought that if there is a World War III, then they must have to fight against Russia. So they must have some enclave over here. So that is why they created Pakistan. Because Indians at that time were in favor of Russian leadership. So British were sure that if India gets independent, they will not help British at all. So they created Pakistan, and then the creators state of J&K, this problem was created. So that was the basic reason. And second was, once they move into this kind of a enclave, once they reach over this, so this area is basically this called Caucasian ranges. There are mountain ranges between the two. There's a landlocked sea called Caspian Sea, and then there is a Black Sea, and thereafter there is the Mediterranean, and the Europe starts. In fact, the Turkey is part of the Europe. So this is a region of Eurasia. So this was the problem. This was the area which was of the Caucasian mountains, full of minerals, basically oil and gas and other minerals also. So they wanted, the British wanted that if they get an enclave from here, so they'll get all the hold of this place in case there's a World War III. Anyway, that was not to be. World War III today, if it comes, it will be in a different context. But that was the time even the British thought that way. Now this area is totally rich in oil and gas. Entire Caspian Sea is full of oil resources. Entire Black Sea is full of oil resources. And thereafter, Mediterranean Sea is also full of oil resources. Now, as of today, what has happened is this Armenia is part of NATO. NATO is North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which America is the leader, and they said entire European countries should be part of it against Russia. So, but when Russia got disintegrated, NATO countries took Azerbaijan into their own fold. In case you are attacked, we'll help you. And reason being, the entire oil which is used by the Europe is produced over here. And this is from here, through pipelines, it is through the Turkey and other countries, it is taken into the European nations via Greece. Now, Europeans are interested that nobody should be able to threaten this particular oil field. And there's oil facilities over here. And Russia is interested that in case something happens over here, he should be able to control this oil. So Russia started patronizing Armenia. Now there is a place called Panga. It's a corridor of 100 odd kilometers, and there's an airfield also, Panga airfield, Panga air base, where Turkeys have deployed their F-16s over here, who have shot down few of the fighters few days back. I think 3 or 4 days back. One Armenian jet, I think it was Su-25, and 2 helicopters were shot down. Now all those were shot down by the F-16 who took off from Panga air base. Now Panga air base ke aspas about 100 odd kilometers corridor. That is the place where all the oil refineries and all the pipelines, etc., pumping stations and all, they are located. So Russia is interested in controlling Armenia, so that it is helping Armenia, so that it can control the Azerbaijan. And rest of the countries, that is the European countries, are looking after the Azerbaijan. Now this is the geography and the history of this place. Now, why this war is taking place? As I told you, Nagorno-Karabakh was always a flashpoint because of different ethnicity, but into a different conclave. The conclave is of Azerbaijan, which claims that this is our country, and Armenia says that the particular thing is of Armenian origin, so that should be part of Armenia. Now, this is how the conflict always remains. Now, what has happened is Turkey and China, Pakistan, they are all supporting Azerbaijan, thinking that they are Muslim country. They are even sending the Syrian rebels, the terrorists. They are also fighting the Armenian armed forces. And Russia is giving arms to the Armenia so that they can fight against Azerbaijan, so that the effective control of Russian dominance on this particular oil remains. And India, as it is, was always in favor of Armenia. If you remember, about 4 or 5 months back, India gave arms to Armenia in terms of weapon locating radars, but that was actually against Turkey, especially for a war in Syria. But nevertheless, India is always with this thing. So it has no religious touch because Iran is with Armenia and not with Azerbaijan, Iran being a Muslim country. So you cannot give it some kind of a religious touch, but economics, yes. That makes a lot of difference. The way NATO countries have taken Armenia into their folds, similarly, Russia also have some equivalent of the same treaty organization and some consortium in which Armenia falls. So this is how the war is going on. Now the problem is, at the moment, what the thing is, 12 odd days have already passed. They have already sort of inflicted heavy damage on the other side, and all the oil field, oil installations are at the risk of being demolished. So that means the entire Russia, Europe will go without oil for some considerable time, which is coming to Europe via Turkey and Greece in terms of pipelines and other things. So at the moment, I think there is a meeting going on in Russia where the foreign ministers are already seated over there, United Nations is already engaged, and they are trying to ensure that this doesn't escalate. So what CSTO is right. You're absolutely right. There's a CSTO is the equivalent of NATO over here, which is working in favor of Armenia. Now at the moment, what is happening is everybody is trying to get peace over here because Turkey is trying to play dirty. It's trying to supply arms to Azerbaijan. In fact, Turkey's air force is already operating inside Azerbaijan against Armenia. Pakistan is trying to act dirty. It is sending its terrorists. And Turkey is also collecting all its terrorists, that is ISI terrorists from Syrian borders and sending them to Azerbaijan on religious terms. Though it is not a religious thing at all, but they're trying to work it up in a religious matter because Turkey wants to take the lead in the Islamic world. At the moment, Saudi Arabia is in the lead, but Turkey wants to dislodge Saudi Arabia because Saudi Arabia has started changing its orientations because they have suddenly realized that being a religious sort of an orientation doesn't work in the present day world. So that is why Turkey is some kind of trying to grab a chance. That is there. Yeah, Khalifa wants to be leader of the Islamic world, which will not happen. That is besides the point. But now, when news reporters come to me, they expect me to say it is a flashpoint for World War III. Yes, it's a flashpoint already. And I'm not saying it cannot conflagrate into World War III. It is a serious thing. But at the same time, the whole world knows what are the implications of World War III or converting into a nuclear conflict. So all sane-minded people would again like to have a peace. There could be some kind of a settlement between Armenia and Azerbaijan, maybe a temporary one, may not be permanent one, and the operations will resume as they are. This is the situation as of now. So now you tell me, what are your questions?
So my question is that Russia is here, I think, playing a dual role because what I have read in newspapers is that they are also like giving arms to the Azerbaijan, and at the same time they are also helping the Armenia. So is it possible that Russia can help in maintaining the peace, but they are not like doing their best?
See, what your contention, what you're saying that you read is all right. Russia is an arms supplier to Azerbaijan also and Armenia also. And I told you Russia's interest is that oil hub near Panga corridor. So Russia wants that whatever oil is going to Europe, it should remain in its control. But then Azerbaijan is also helped by Turkey in a very big way. And Turkey is always a US bloc and not Russian bloc. So just to counter Turkey, Russia has come in aid of Armenia. And moreover, if we see the ethnicity wise or religion wise, Russia is closer to Armenia than the Azerbaijan. But then the Muslims in Azerbaijan are not the Muslims of Turkey, Iran or West Asia. These Muslims of Azerbaijan are pig-eating, wine-drinking Muslims, which these Muslims of the Muslim world are not the same. So ultimate aim is that Russia wants to keep a control over the oil which is going to the Europe. They want to have some kind of a sort of a control over it, that in case there is a conflict, they should be able to do it. But at the same time, that is how they had been helping Azerbaijan earlier. But once they found that Azerbaijan is tilting towards Turkey, Pakistan, and other Islamic countries, Syria, etc., so they started supporting Armenia, that in case Azerbaijan acts funny, so Armenia can sort out Azerbaijan on behalf of Russia. So that is how it is. Have I made it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Now, next question from anybody else.
I was asking recently, French President Emmanuel Macron had stood in the favor of Armenia. So is it against the European sentiment, which is in favor of Azerbaijan due to oil imports, or it is with the European Union?
Okay, listen to one thing from me very clearly. You should, this is a question which can be asked you in current affairs also, and maybe interviewing officer can ask you. You see, world wars till, say, 18th century, 19th century, world was in a different kind of a geopolitical scenario. But at the beginning of 20th century, what happened was, with the advent of First World War and Second World War, finally world got into a Cold War scenario in which there were two blocks and rest everybody was falling in line with one block or the other. And then they were guaranteeing security. So what if you are in Russian bloc? So whatever decision Russia took, you have to say yes to it, whether in United Nations or otherwise. Or whatever, if you are in US bloc, whatever US said, you had to do that. So what happened with disintegration of USSR in 1991, as I told you, 92 that time. So world came into a monoblock. So smaller blocks started appearing in the scene. Now, America, of course, was the world power. Russia is no more the world power. It is not a bloc. It has got disintegrated. That is how China came up. India was coming up. Mexico was coming up. Brazil was coming up. You know, France, Germany, they were all making their own European Union and things like that. And thereafter, when the things even further progressed, smaller blocks started coming as per the specific issues. Now, you are not a bloc to fall in line with America or China or Germany. It is only on a particular issue you are there. So what was happening was a multilateral sort of linkages. So maybe on one particular issue you are with Russia, and there may be some other issue. Let's say of Crimea, you are against Russia. So that was also working very well. But now what has happened is, now it is purely your own national interest. There's something called Thomas Hobbes theory. Thomas Hobbes was some philosopher, political philosopher during the English Civil War. So he gave a theory of nationalism. Now everything is working on that particular nationalism, and you are not going to do anything wherever your sort of interest converges. You start favoring that. Moment somewhere else your interest is not there with that particular country, you are not with that. So in this kind of a crisscross kind of a maze that gets formed, you're trying to locate the minimum common denominator, LCM, lowest common denominator. So that is how these things are posing. So if you find Germany today giving statement in favor of China, it is because of the economic interest. Now Germany has started favoring in terms of a liberal Indo-Pacific and coming in the bloc of US. It is because they have their economic relationship, which they thought will work with China, has not worked. So similarly, you find French President Macron giving a statement in favor of Armenia. Of course, they are not die hard in favor. They just say that we want peace in the region because our supplies of the oils are getting disrupted. So if they start favoring Azerbaijan, there are other implications of Muslim influence in their own country. Like you know, France is again a very highly Islamized country in a big way. And if you've heard about the Charlie Hebdo attack and other Muslim ghettos in Paris, so they have to see the domestic constituency also. So if they start favoring Azerbaijan, all French will think that President Macron is speaking in favor of rising Islamic entity in country. Like same thing is happening in Belgium. The same thing is happening in Holland. Same thing is happening in UK. So whatever a president of a country or prime minister of a country or leader of a country says, this is as per their own political compulsions, economic reasons, domestic compulsions, and whatever their own national philosophy of international relation is. So that is how you find those statements coming.
The statement of Emmanuel Macron was in context of the Turkey. Turkey saying it was accusing Turkey that it is trying to disrupt the regional peace. Also, I would like to ask that there are missiles and tank confrontation and missiles firing on each other. Still, it is called a conflict, not a war. Why is that?
First of all, as regards Turkey is concerned, this is an area of conflict, again because of oil, which has started now. Turkey is already creating problems in Syria, and there was a war going on. US is likely to withdraw from there, and that was creating a refugee problem from the Europeans. Secondly, Turkey does not recognize, there is a treaty called United Nations Convention of Law of Seas. It says that in case there is a sea there and you have your border coastline, 12 nautical miles is your territorial waters. That means that is your territory. Then 24 nautical miles, another 12 nautical miles from there, total 24 nautical miles is the contiguous zone, which is also yours. And thereafter till 200 nautical miles, it is an exclusive economic zone. Whatever resources are there, they are yours, your country. But Turkey, in violation to this particular UN treaty, is creating problems for Cyprus as well as Greece in Mediterranean Sea. So as per this treaty, 200 nautical miles are theirs. So Turkey says, I do not agree to this particular treaty, so I will also go and drill my oil. So that is creating a problem. That is, there will be a war between Turkey and Greece. So that would also is not wanted. That is why President Macron said Turkey, as it is, was creating problems, getting the refugees into European countries from Syria, trying to escalate into a war with countries like Greece and Cyprus on oil matters, trying to help Libya and the Mediterranean, again the Muslim militia of Libya. So that is creating problems for the Europeans. So whatever President Macron's statement has come, this is in that context. Now, second question, missiles are being fired, everything is, aircrafts are being shot down. It is a war on. It is a war on. Okay, but it is not getting sort of escalated into a multi-countries war trying to do it together, though those things are happening on ground. So everybody is trying to make sure that this does not conflagrate into World War III, because if that happens, if more countries join in on either side, then they will might deploy nuclear weapons also. And there are other missiles, intercontinental ballistic missiles with multiple warheads. There are other kinds of seas. So this can go on to the other places as well. So that is why they're trying to restrict it. But war is definitely on.
In a way, sir, actually, they were. I read recently that Russia is working in order to stop this issue and make sure that war don't happen. So the world powers are trying to say that war is not happening. It is a conflict. That is
No, it's the same thing. There are different connotations and definitions of conflict, war, battle, world war. But ultimately, destruction is taking place. Best of the weapons are being used, but escalation is not being to that a level where it becomes a problem for you. Okay. Okay. Anybody else?
Yes, sir. I also have one more question. Like, sir, what do you think? Who is responsible? Like this Nagorno-Karabakh region, this is internationally recognized in the like Azerbaijan region since like very early time, but still it is controlled by the Armenia. So what is the role of UN, and who is really responsible out of these two countries? Who is wrong and who is right?
Two parts of your question. I'll answer the first one first. You see, it is not controlled by Armenia. It is not this thing. I told you the correct position is that particular area which is called Nagorno-Karabakh. This was always ruled by people of Armenian origin. Okay. So when I told you when the disintegration of USSR took place, the Azerbaijan claimed that since it was falling into within their territory, so it should be a territory of Azerbaijan and not Armenia. But Armenians said, since this is a people of Armenian origin, our race, and they are the ones who are controlling it, so it is our territory. So this dispute was always there.
Who is the real culprit or who is responsible for this thing? Because like I don't know whether it is right or wrong, but what I have heard is during that Soviet era, this Karabakh area, it is internationally recognized in the Azerbaijan region, but it is just controlled by Armenian separatists, and people there, they are Armenians. So that was my concern.
Okay, so I told you, I initially when I started the thing, I gave you a history and geography. Probably you didn't hear me at that time. Though it is controlled, it is in other Nagorno-Karabakh is part of Azerbaijan geographical boundaries. But it is already, I told you, it is controlled and inhabited by the people of Armenian origins. Now, everybody, even when Soviet Union disintegrated, Soviet Union was becoming very, very weak at that time. But then they definitely knew that in case the Caucasian oil field, because that was Soviet, that was Russia's territory. So it is their oil fields, their minerals. They knew about it. So moment they disintegrated, the Europeans were quick to get into Azerbaijan. Okay, you are part of NATO with us. Do a treaty of NATO with us, so that the entire oil of Caspian Sea and the Caucasian region, all minerals, gas, everything goes to the Europe. So that was the condition. So nobody at that time, Russia also wanted that this thing should not happen. So Russia took Armenia into CSTO, their treaty organization. So at that time, now you said it is not internationally recognized. Nagorno-Karabakh is not recognized. It's not a UN country. Like Taiwan is not recognized. Nagorno-Karabakh is also not recognized. Now the point is, which you might get into your mind is, that it's been almost 30, 40 years. Why couldn't they sort out this problem? Problem they couldn't sort out because Russia wants to keep a control over the Caucasian region oil fields. Europe wants to have a control. So if they sort out the problem, once the party will lose the control. So they never sorted out this problem. And even if they go to your UN, the problem in UN is that in Security Council you have 5 permanent members with veto power. So in Europe, how many countries are there with veto power? Tell me. France, Germany, and UK.
Five.
Russia also is a veto power country. So if something is mooted in favor of European thing, Russia will oppose it. If something is mooted in favor of Russia, France, Germany, and UK will oppose it. So that is how we never got to this problem.
So far we have seen that Pakistan had given statement in the favor of Azerbaijan, since it is a Muslim dominated country. Also, since Turkey is involved in the issue and it is in favor of Azerbaijan, we can see that China also will favor the Azerbaijan. So what is our stand in this issue? What should we do according to you?
I have explained to you why Turkey is favoring Azerbaijan. Because Turkey wants that it should get the leadership of Islamic world. So it says that I am looking after Islamic country. Pakistan is becoming Turkey ka chamcha. Okay.
Exactly.
Despite sending the terrorists for fighting against Armenia, today Pakistan has already signed a pact with Azerbaijan. I'll give you 37 J-17 fighters. Sorry, 36 J-17 fighters. And we will train your pilots also. But where will Pakistan get 36 J-17 fighters? They are obviously going with China. Okay, it's a Chinese fighter. And Pakistan का खुद के पास 36 fighters नहीं है, कहाँ से दे देगा? But then it has got into pact with Azerbaijan. He will give us oil at cheap rates for next 10 years. So these are the equations which are working out in this troubled time. As I said, and everybody, wherever you have your own nation interest, you go and do the pact accordingly. It is not a multipolar or a unipolar, multipolar or whatever world. It is a multilateral approach wherever aapka banta hai. Now China is so far is off the fence. China is watching the entire game from the fence because it says it will depend if it gets into a thing against Russia, which it doesn't want. If it can't favor Russia, it doesn't want. Because the China-Russia equation is that China says that Russia's Vladivostok area is a Chinese territory. There's a dispute. Thereafter, when Russia occupied Crimea against Ukraine, China was in favor of Ukraine and not Russia. So these are the things people are just waiting and watching. So at the moment, only thing that China still towards Azerbaijan, you can say, is that they have agreed to give 36 fighters to Azerbaijan via Pakistan route. पाकिस्तान के पास रोटी खाने के पैसे नहीं है, वो कहाँ से उसको 36 JF-17 देगा यार? It has to come free from China and go there. But China is still not part of the bandwagon. Though it would like to be in league with your Turkey and Pakistan. Okay. So that is how it is.
The question was, so since both of our enemy nations are in favor of Azerbaijan, what is our stand and what should we do according to you in this? As
we are in league with Armenia right from the beginning because we have to support Armenia against Turkey and Syrian conflict, Kurdistan also. So that is our requirement. At the same time, Russia is always in our favor. We are getting a lot of arms and etc. We are getting from them last so many years, and even now we are getting so much S-400 and things like that. So we will, most probably India will go the way Russia did. But at the same time, in case it has to make a variance somewhere, it will make, like it happened in case of Iran. India asked United States to exclude it against Iran for some time, which was done. So I think, Varun, I think it is done now. People are having problems coming in and out.
Yes, sir. I think it's done now. So, guys, we'll have more such sessions on such current topics and world topics. So, be there for it and be a volunteer to the group and ask more and more friends of your friends, because we need to spread the knowledge. We need to spread the discussions, because what all the motive of these discussions and these all things are just to create an arena of knowledge in yourself, and just to have full explanation and full discussion on these world affairs and current affairs. So be the volunteers of the group and do more and more in it. Okay. Thank you.
And this will be part of your group discussions. This will be part of your interviewing officer. He might ask you for your views. Then you can give your views. And the technique remains. Even if the interviewing officer is not agreeing with you, it may so happen. You have to take your stand and say and give a reason for whatever you say. So that is why I'm trying to explain to you everything, so that you have the reasonings with you. Okay? Right or wrong, nobody knows how a person is going to do that. But then once we'll put this video also, and all those boys and girls who have not been present here, you can tell them to see the video and sort of increase the knowledge. So you can do a group discussion, or you can sort of do a bit of a debate with your interviewing officer. Okay? Then Jai Hind, Jai Bharat. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Chalo, see you then. Bye.
Yes, sir.